Thank you for joining us. Another episode of Catching Up with Jacob. And here he is, all the way across on the other side, literally, of the world, Jacob Prash.
Blessings to Jesus, dear friends. Greetings from Sydney, Australia today. Sydney, Australia, wherever you are, we are down under. Pleased to be here with the believers in Jesus who are in Australia. We had a blessed time in New Zealand as well, and we look forward to continuing our itinerary in Australia and on to Singapore and Southeast Asia and the Far East.
All right, amen. Not too far from you, but not quite in Australia, David Lister.
Good morning. It's almost good to be here at 2 a.m. or 3 now.
Where are you, David? Tell us where you are.
I am in Singapore taking 2 days off before I head up to Thailand. So,
Meeting up with the believers there, Scott and the believers there. Amen.
believers at prison stuff and church with Jay Lee.
Amen. Well, not too far from your room, Jacob, is Davey. How are you, Davey?
It's doing pretty good, thanks. Good to be with you all.
Yeah, good morning. And all the way on the Pacific Coast, though, now coming back here to California. Jay, how are you, brother?
Good to be here. Good to see everyone.
Hey, it's good to have you here, brother. Absolutely. Just to remind everyone, Jacob will be speaking in Sydney. He'll be speaking in Victoria. He'll be speaking in Perth. David, you got the rest of the schedule for our brother Jacob here so people can understand it. I mean, they can go to memorial.org, but they can understand more from this video where they should go if they want to visit with Jacob.
Yep. Well, Jacob's speaking today in Sydney at Currawee Primary School, both today and tomorrow. Just to clarify a couple of things with the Melbourne-Geelong meetings, Jacob is speaking this coming Thursday, that's May 30th, at the Holiday Inn Melbourne Airport, this Thursday at 6 p.m. And then on the 1st and 2nd of June, the meetings are actually in Geelong. They're at Geelong at the Ridges Hotel. Please email us at morialaustralia@gmail.com for more information, and especially for the Melbourne meeting. That one's filling up pretty quick. We had a great turn up in Brisbane. There was only one spare seat. So I'm expecting the Melbourne one to be full. So please RSVP so that you're not disappointed. Then we'll be on to Perth, but Jacob will also be in Singapore on Sunday, June the 9th, speaking at the Calvary Chapel there in Singapore. So that is Sunday, June the 9th. So don't, if you're in the area there, don't miss that one.
Great stuff. Thank you, Davey. And of course, Jacob going from New Zealand to Australia to Singapore, the Far East, and off to Japan, right, Jacob?
We're going to Japan. We're having meetings in Japan. And James will be joining us from California. James is a nice mixture of California Jewish and Japanese American. What could be better? We're gonna have a little bit of matzo teriyaki over there.
Last of the Japanese.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And so if you want to watch, of course, Memorial TV has different platforms, including YouTube and Facebook, but there's also Rumble, Memorial TV, memorialtv.org. There's Vimeo, there's Telegram. We're in quite a different platform. So we welcome those who are watching live and those who will be watching later. You can also catch Jacob on our podcast. And the podcast sticker should be on there. And you guys should be able to see all the different platforms for the podcast and good stuff coming out of the podcast. So we praise the Lord for that. And let's see any other announcements. I think those are it. I think I'm missing something. Feels like I'm missing something, but maybe not. So we want to welcome those who are here, and thank you guys for being on with us. And we have a jam-packed, lots of stuff going on and catching up with Jacob. But we want to first start, Jacob, with what's going on in Germany with the call of the ICC to arrest Netanyahu. Germany's taking this to the next level. Why don't we do a hot take on that? And you let us know what's going on and how you, what's your take with Germany and obviously other countries that have signed up for the Free Palestine and support a Palestinian state. Go ahead, Jacob.
It is virtually unbelievable what's transpiring. First of all, which Palestinian state do you want to give diplomatic recognition to? The Hamas state, which is sponsored by Iran, a terrorist state. You want to reward them for their fifth attack on Israel since Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. You want to reward them for what they did on the 7th of October of last year, for the kidnappings, for the beheading of babies, for the rape of women. You want to thank them for that by giving them recognition. Or do you wish to give recognition to Fatah, to the Palestinian Authority of Abbas in the West Bank? By the way, they hate each other and killed 25,000 of each other. And just a week before last, Hamas arrested representatives who were bringing food aid into Gaza from the West Bank, from Fatah, Arafat's people. Hamas came to power because Fatah, Arafat's people, stole the international aid. And now, of course, Hamas has stolen it. 3 men in Qatar stole $11 billion of international aid from their own people. The rest they use for military purposes instead of to build an infrastructure for a future Gaza state. That's the situation. So do you want to give it to the Iranian-sponsored terrorist Hamas organization, which the European Union admits is terrorist, or do you want to recognize Fatah? Now, if you want to recognize Fatah, you have another problem. They have no democratic legitimacy. They have not had an election in over 18 years. For nearly 20 years, they have not had an elected government because they're afraid that the people will vote for Hamas. So you have an unelected, non-democratic government in complete violation of the Oslo Accords. You want to recognize them when they don't even democratically represent the people they govern, or do you want to have Hamas a terrorist organization? That would be my first question. But let's look at these nations that did it. Norway, disturbingly, Ireland, and Spain. Norway, Ireland, and Spain. Thankfully, there were conservatives in Spain who did speak out against it. His name was Senor Santiago Abasco. Were enraged and understood the seriousness of what was being done by Sanchez and the left-wing government. But this is a situation where Spain has gone back to its historical anti-Semitism. España es el país de las inquisiciones contra los judíos otra vez contra los judíos en el país de las inquisiciones. Y también la Iglesia Católica el mismo. Esto es muy verdad, muy peligroso, qué lástima para España. It's absolutely horrific and unbelievable that the Catholic Church took 500 years to admit there was an Inquisition. And then supposedly there was some kind of an apology for what happened in Spain. And now they're doing this again. They're doing this again. In Spanish history, it was under Ferdinand and Isabella who launched the Inquisitions, but they also fought the Moors. They fought the Muslims and Arabs themselves. These people don't understand their own history of their own country. Then, of course, we have the Norwegians. Don't ask me why. I don't know what they have to gain. They're a left-wing government. But I do know Obadiah 15. There was a lefty in Norway about 12 years ago, shot a few dozen young left-wing people who were anti-Israel, got shot dead by some kind of a right-wing fanatic in Norway. I don't understand the Norwegian hatred of the Jews. There are many Norwegians who do not hate the Jews. There are many Norwegian born-again Lutherans, evangelical Lutherans who are born again, who are sympathetic to Israel. But the government at the moment reflects a conflict that's taking place in Scandinavia. This conflict is already alive and well in Sweden, particularly Malmö, but also Stockholm, but particularly Malmö. It is happening in Denmark. There is a reaction to the Islamic invasion. And the left-wing governments are siding with who? They're siding with Islam. So it's not just Israel. It is what is happening in Scandinavia generally. There is a grassroots reaction to the rapes, to the crime, to the social parasitism, to the attempts to enforce Sharia on democratic countries. And the governments of the left in those countries are pushing against those who are nationalists, who are trying to defend their countries and regain control of their countries from not only the Muslims, but the left wing who have sponsored them. And this trend is also in Holland. It's in Holland with Geert Wilders, and it is in Ireland. Ireland is also a country that did it. Now, my mother's family are Irish. This is, again, like what it's always been. It's Spain doing what Spain always did with inquisitions. It's Ireland doing what Ireland always did. Again, another Roman Catholic country with a history of anti-Semitism. We have the Catholic priest Flaherty, and then Fahey, Dennis Fahey, and then Sean South, who led the IRA attacks against the British in the 1950s. They were in the Maria Dulce, an extremely anti-Semitic Roman Catholic organization. You had been Sinn Féin. Now, the Sinn Féin today, the political wing of the IRA is not the Sinn Féin of Michael Collins. With the Easter Uprising and what came out of it, those people were not terrorists. Michael Collins was a soldier. He was a partisan. He was an Irish Republican nationalist. These were the original Fenians. They were not terrorists, and they were not involved in organized crime, terrorizing their own people. They're not like the Provisional IRA. But the Provisional IRA, they forget the fact that the Jews are the indigenous people of Israel, the same as the Irish or the indigenous people of Ireland. Two sets of rules. They're identifying with the invader, with the occupier, with Islam, instead of with the indigenous people. Archaeology says the Jews were there first, just like the Irish were in Ireland first. It's a completely convoluted way of thinking with Sinn Féin. But let's look at Sinn Féin. During the Second World War, you had Sean Russell, the chief of staff of the IRA, went to Germany at the invitation of Hitler with a military escort and a chauffeured military vehicle, and was trained in terrorist techniques of sabotage and demolitions by the Nazi army. He actually did that. That was Sinn Féin. You had pro-Hitler leadership of Sinn Féin. You had Tom Barry, a Nazi spy in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and London. You had James O'Donovan, again, pro-Nazi. Now, that's just Sinn Féin. Let's look at Fine Gael, the other Irish party, who's also anti-Israel. Mussolini in Italy had the black shirts. In Germany, Hitler had the brown shirts. The fascists in Ireland were called the blue shirts. You can look at pictures of the blue shirts on the internet giving the Heil Hitler salute. This was Fine Gael. They still exist. And then we have the party of my fellow New Yorker, Eamon de Valera, who was half Spanish and half Irish. Eamon de Valera, born in New York City. Because of American pressure and because he was an American, he had to covertly cooperate with the Americans in the Second World War to a degree. But his official policy was absolute neutrality. At the end of the Second World War, at the end of the war, when Hitler was dead, when the concentration camps were liberated and people saw what the Nazis did at Buchenwald and Treblinka and Auschwitz and in Dachau, when Coventry was in ruins, when the east end of London was in ruins, when the V2 attacks had happened, when the Nazis bombed the American military field hospital in Bastogne in the Battle of the Bulge and shot American prisoners of war from the 101st Airborne, unarmed prisoners of war, and murdered them. This all came out at the same time in the media. Everybody knew what happened. The American 8th Army of Patton conquered central and southern Germany. Montgomery conquered northern Germany, and the Russians came in from the east and reached Berlin. It was over. The war was absolutely over. In his bunker, the Russians were less than a quarter of a mile away. Hitler took cyanide and blew his brains out. Eamon de Valera, the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, born in New York City, went to the German embassy in Dublin to convey his condolences to Nazi Germany, what was left of it, upon the suicide of Adolf Hitler. That is the Fianna Fáil party. Sinn Féin, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Fine me somebody better to vote for. This is just the traditional anti-Semitism of so much of Irish political history. And I am not saying all Irish people are anti-Semitic. They certainly are not. Bearing in mind, my mother's family is Irish Catholic. I have Irish family in Ireland, Donegal Court. Not all Irish people are that. But the history of Irish government and politics are that. And last, this is unbelievable. The final solution was what was proposed by the Nazis. The final solution, pardon meine Judendeutsch, verstehen meine Judendeutsch, pardon my New York Yiddish. In gültiger Lösung, in gültiger Lösung. The final solution. Olaf Scholz, Herr Scholz, kommen Sie hier bitte, mach schnell. Juden verboten, Herr Scholz. Sind Sie ein Sohn des Dritten Reiches? Sind Sie ein Sohn des Dritten Reiches? Sie sind Gestapo von Hitler. Du bist ein Nazi. You're going to arrest the Prime Minister of Israel, a nation born out of the Holocaust, a nation born out of the ovens of the Nazis. Because Hamas has another final solution sponsored by Iran. They have a final solution. They openly say it. First the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. We're going to kill all the Jews, not just the Zionists, then we're going to kill the Christians. They openly say they have a final solution to exterminate all the Jews. They quote from the Quran, the last day will not come until a tree says, there's a Jew hiding on back of me, come and murder him. This is their ideology, this is their religious profession. They have a final solution, just like Germany did under Hitler. Du bist ein Nazi. Well, you almost carried it out. They came out of the concentration camps as refugees with rags on their backs and crawled back to their ancient land. And now everybody's angry. How dare you defend yourself? Just let them kill you the way you let them kill you in the Inquisition in Spain. Just let them put your children in ovens the way we put your children in ovens during the Holocaust. How dare you defend yourself? We'll arrest you. You're an international criminal. Says Germany? Germany? Of all nations? Now, we know that the International Criminal Court and the ICJ is a joke in The Hague. We know it's a joke. But you've got an Islamic prosecutor, a Muslim prosecutor, wanting to bring an indictment and criminal charges against the Rosh Hashanah, against the Prime Minister of Israel for self-defense. The ICJ didn't even mention self-defense, and the ICC couldn't care less about it. But Germany? Germany wants to enforce a bogus arrest and indictment? Arrest the Prime Minister of the nation that came into being, established by the United Nations as a result of what Germany did. Du bist eine Nazi. Sie sind Gestapo von Hitler? Das ist eine große Katastrophe. Eine große Katastrophe für Deutschland. Sind Sie ein Sohn des Dritten Reiches? Forgive my New York Yiddish, the best I can do, but you know what I mean.
Very good, Jacob. That's a hot take. And that will go up and be posted. You mentioned Norway, Jacob, and I remember Christian, the king of Norway, Christian the 10.
So that was Denmark.
Oh, sorry,
was-
Denmark. Yeah.
Danish.
Sorry, Denmark. Yeah, and he was a Danish king who put the yellow star on the on himself, supporting the Jews, and many people in Denmark supported the Jewish people. And Europe has become just a complete cesspool of hatred toward Jewish people. And we don't find any kings like Christian the 10th anymore. So traditionally, Danish people have been really supportive of Jews. Norway too, traditionally, but
Yeah, the conservative evangelical Luthers were pro-Zionist and friendly to Israel.
yeah, I remember meeting believers that were that were part of that church that were really, really strong for Israel. They would fly to Israel. They would, bless Israel. They would share the gospel with the Jews. They were very, very much active in the
It was
presentation.
Norwegian believers who got Richard Wurmbrand out of prison in Romania.
That's right. You're right. That's right.
I knew him. I knew him and his wife.
Yeah.
They were, of course, Jewish.
Yeah, that's very good. Very good. Well, that's a hot take. We'll go on it. Jacob, let's get started catching up because just quick comments. If you want to make any comments on this, Media Matters is laying out people. CNN's got the worst ratings since 1991. I think Bush 1 was president at that time. I don't think we're going to be pretty sad about that. I think we might have a party since not a lot of people are watching CNN. I think it's 83,000 people watch their primetime shows. That's really, really low. Jacob,
83,000
yeah.
in the primary age market.
Yeah.
And also, what's the other one? Pixels? Pixels laid off a couple of hundred. James,
Well,
what's that cartoon producers? Is it Pixel Pix?
Yeah, Pixar.
Pixar.
Is it Pixar?
Yeah.
Really? Oh man. All right.
Also,
Well,
have been hit with big layoffs.
yeah. Jay, I don't think we're gonna cry a river. We're gonna cry me a river for Media Matters. They've been a despicable news organization, if you want to call them that. They're just basically an arm of the DNC.
Well, I think
Specifically,
Hillary Clinton's probably crying a river. It's her baby.
that and what was the other organization that they had? It was I forget what they called. MoveOn.org.
Move on.
man.
Yes.
Yeah. If there was any organization that was more anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, anti-conservative, those were two. Media Matters and MoveOn.org were one of the ones. But CNN, Jay, I mean, I had to read this twice. 25 to 54 demographic, 83,000 on primetime shows.
I mean, if you've ever been down Sunset Strip, there's the big CNN building. I just have to wonder where are they going to do the Spirit Cookie potluck now that CNN is in financial trouble.
Yeah. You think
They've got a building, and they've got a big building, a big office and studio complex on the west side of Manhattan in Hudson Yards. They've got a big, huge place in Atlanta, their original place.
Oh yeah, that is the place. Yeah.
They've got a lot of infrastructure to support. But how are you going to do it with 83,000 people in prime time?
Well, here's one of the things is so CNN is big overseas. If you remember, Jacob, they have news. They're shown in Australia. They're shown here in Singapore. Everywhere they have a voice, but not as much in the USA. But over here, they have a voice.
Yeah, say CNN International. Yeah, CNN International, but CNN America.
Part of it, but I don't know if like I remember they were in every airport, but they were paying for that access. So if that's the thing over here, and their paying is coming from America, they could soon be going down over here too. Because you can only give away your product so long.
Yeah. Well, David, maybe Anderson Cooper will come knocking at our door for some for a job or something. Maybe.
I
wouldn't worry. Jeff Bezos is getting his checkbook.
Oh,
I need my lawn cut, but I don't trust him that he would do a good job.
yeah. What about
happened to Disney? I thought they repented of this stuff, and then they had said they were making a new start, and then they went right back with the Virgin film.
Oh, pretty much. What about Vivek Ramaswamy? Vivek Ramaswamy buying BuzzFeed, fourth largest investor in BuzzFeed. Jay, any chances that will turn around?
I mean, with Vivek, there's a good chance, actually. I mean, he's a smart operator. He's really good at management, and I'd be very surprised if he allows BuzzFeed to continue the direction it's going as far as its political bias.
Yeah. Jacob, we might be able to get into BuzzFeed now. 2 million shares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only wish he would become a Christian. I have nothing against the guy, but he is a Hindu. But ideologically, I agree with him 85, if not 90% of the time.
Yeah, no, I know. It's interesting. Jacob,
he wasn't always this way. He was an Obama guy early on.
He was.
yeah, some people think he's not maybe a plant or something like that, which, yeah, there's always that capabilities of people turning around
And showing candidate.
yeah, exactly. Especially during the presidency. Jacob, let's get to the hot topic. It's former President Abraham Razi. I'm sure he's enjoying his time now and getting his eternal rewards. I'm not sure if he's going to meet 72 virgins, but he is. He died in a helicopter crash and just right by Azerbaijan. Four total. 3 other ministers of Iran passed away. So Tehran is in mourning right now. There's lots of people here in the States that are celebrating his death. They call him the Butcher of Tehran. He's responsible for the death of thousands and thousands of people, Jews and Christians, and of course, the killing of their own people for not wearing veils, and especially that lady that died under the police chief. So, Jacob, your take on it, because the big thing is the U.S. and Israel is responsible for this, so they vow a response.
What did Israel do? Put a mountain in front of the helicopter? Ibrahim Raisi gave the green light, howbeit at the behest of his mentor, Khamenei. He did it at the behest of Khamenei.
Yeah.
However, he gave the green light to Hamas. He gave the green light to Hezbollah. He gave the green light to the Houthis. Hamas, and Hezbollah. He gave the green light to all 3. Him and his foreign minister were killed together by the hand of God. Genesis 12, verse 3. I'll curse them that curse thee. But you add him to the honor roll of hell. Sheikh Yassin, the religious patriarch of Hamas, was killed by the Israelis. He was their patron saint, their George Washington. Then you have Soleimani, eliminated by Donald Trump, directed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's activities in Lebanon, Syria, killed Americans, killed Jews, killed Israelis, killed Christians, killed whoever. Soleimani is gone, and his de facto successor, Mohammed Zahidi, killed by the Israelis.
Yep.
Notice the main leaders responsible for doing this stuff. The main Iranian leaders. The only one who died naturally was Ayatollah Khomeini. All the others were killed, either by the Israelis, the Americans, or by the hand of God. And now we have the police chief, who apparently was killed by his own people.
7 bullets. Yeah.
Notice they're all dead. The main people responsible for this. It's not Hamas. It's not what's happening to the Houthis in Yemen. It is not Hezbollah. It is the hand of Iran. It is Daniel 10, the principality over Iran. And virtually every one of those people are dead, except Khomeini, and he's very old.
Yeah, he is very old. Jacob, what a lot of people don't understand is that even within Iran, there is quite a bit of people that do not want the mullahs, do not want the Ayatollah, even though obviously there is quite a bit of following and people that are subjected to that terrorism and that regime that were mourning. But there was quite a bit of people here in Glendale, California, here in
Huge Persian American populations in California.
Dancing Jacob dancing on the
Dancing.
street. Yeah,
Dancing.
celebrating. Yeah.
Not only that, we don't know how many, but the churches are growing in Iran. People being saved out of Islam and the underground churches, being persecuted but being saved. And those people are pro-Israel. And some of those people dancing were waving Israeli flags, giving out sweets. They were giving out sweets. They were dancing and waving Israeli flags.
There were fireworks going off in Tehran after he died. So
Yeah.
somebody was celebrating.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that the son of the Shah,
Yeah.
lives in Connecticut.
He's in America. Yeah, he's in America here, which a lot of people believe that he might be, if that regime gets knocked off, he might be put back in power. So they say.
Well,
That'd be
we saw what Obama did that when they did have that summer of revolt. And I wonder what will happen under Trump if there's support for, another summer like that.
It could have been overthrown, but Obama did nothing.
Did not want to do it.
Not only that, remember between Obama and Biden, with unfrozen cash assets, liquid assets, and by not enforcing the oil embargoes, Barack Obama and Joe Biden put $300 billion into the pockets of Iran to develop nuclear weapons to destroy Israel and to fund terror that even killed Americans.
Right.
Barack Obama and Joe Biden and Blinken and Kerry and Hillary Clinton. How can anybody not look upon this and raise the specter of treason?
Jacob, he gave that money between when he was walking out of office. It was kind of like
79 days. Yeah, the last 79 days.
Parting shot.
Yeah.
Could not have done this terror and killed these people or got as far as it has in the development of atomic weapons if Barack Obama didn't write him a check, in effect.
Yeah. And what we do need to understand, hopefully everybody understands, there's quite a bit of believers in Iran, that the growing population of Christianity, because they've been so subjected to this regime. A lot of them in prison, a lot of women, Jacob, in prison that are believers. So it only is going to take the hand of the Lord to remove this regime, and maybe Persia will be a blessed country because of the believers there. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. But let's understand something else that was disclosed this week. Barack Obama and his Justice Department. You're talking now, we're going back to the time of Lynch and Holder. They restrained the FBI from arresting and pursuing prosecutions against people who were collaborating in the development of weapon systems with nuclear application for Iran. They would not arrest and prosecute people violating the prohibition of arms dealership and arms development with Iran. Barack Obama stopped the arrests and prosecution to help the Iranians. How can anybody not say that that man should not be indicted for treason?
Yeah,
and it won't do it.
You remember it was Clinton that gave China the missile technology they needed to deliver these weapons.
Absolutely.
$500,000 sold us out.
I did want to ask you guys a question. We had Robert Fico, Slovakian prime minister, attempt murder. They almost killed him, put 5 bullets, and he's past the critical condition. So I think he's going to live. Then you have the Iranian leaders that are falling by the wayside. But then you have this situation that happened, Jacob, with the FBI in 2022. We found out now that the FBI was authorized by the DOJ to use lethal force at the raid of Mar-a-Lago on 2022. So the Biden administration authorized the use of lethal force. They even said that they were instructed not to wear unmarked clothing and to hide that they were law enforcement. Jacob, were they trying to provoke something? I mean, this is by far one of the most grievous things and alarming things that I've ever heard against a former president.
This shows the wickedness and corruption of the Biden administration, certainly of Merrick Garland, and of the corruption of the FBI. Absolutely. Permission to use lethal force to raid the home of a former president. Why not use lethal force to arrest Barack Obama on charges of treason?
Can you imagine if they did that to Obama? People would be outraged. The media would be outraged.
Yep, not anymore. But
The
weren't,
media might be outraged, but not
Now-
everybody.
wasn't there pushback from FBI agents that had to do
Want to
the
do
raid?
it.
Yeah,
They
well,
did
here's
not
what we
want to
found
do
out.
it.
Yeah, here's what we
But
found
it's the
out.
top.
Forced by
The
Garland.
top is politically
The FBI resisted. The FBI did not want to do it. They thought it was a provocation. They thought it was too much. And Merrick Garland overrode it and said, you need to do this. And so it was authorized. We have the documents, not only authorized of lethal force, but to go into each room of the Mar-a-Lago mansion, to go into each room for the guests and interrogate the guests. And they even had equipment for paramedics in case something happened. Jacob, they're going to shoot it out with the Secret Service. I have no doubt that was one of the intentions. Thank God it didn't happen. But when you have unmarked clothing, like you look like a civilian, you got a guy coming up to the place with guns. I don't even know how it didn't happen. I don't even
think
know
the
how it
FBI
didn't
would
happen.
have called the Secret Service and informed them we have these warrants ahead of time. One federal
Yeah.
agency cooperating with another. It tells you it was a political setup by a desperate, corrupt administration.
What's up
You
with the
remember Trump
judge?
was out of town.
Yeah, he was not there. He was not there.
York. So there might have been a leak by some honest FBI guys or something to
Yes,
give them
Could have been. But just to hear and just to read the documents, it was pretty clear. Use lethal force. I mean, in the FBI did not want to do it, and then they were overridden by Garland. But what about the judge doing it on WhatsApp?
Well, some of the political prisoners, they raided his house at 6 a.m, surrounded by SWAT teams with guys with helmets and automatic weapons. Who was that? They arrested him 6 a.m. A guy
Roger
in the-
Stone.
Yeah.
Roger
An old
Stone.
man.
Why? You know, in a civilized society, even under Hoover, he would have got a phone call. Please call your lawyer. We'll be at your house tomorrow. Is 10 o'clock convenient? Or can you
Or
surrender
meet
to
him at
the
his lawyer's office. They would allow you, or even he could come in and turn himself in at
That's
the
right.
FBI.
That would normally be done on that level.
But Jacob, they were Trump and his lawyers were cooperating with the
Yes.
FBI. It wasn't like he was resisting. He was very much cooperating. Then they stormed Mar-a-Lago, and even though they didn't want to do it, the DOJ wanted to do it. Jacob, you mentioned Roger Stone. There's another guy, James O'Keefe. They did the same thing.
Exactly.
Are they provoking something? Are they going after something, creating such an uproar that if they were to shoot it out, they would get what they want, which is
Well, they tried to do that on January 6th.
yeah.
The films show the Capitol Police opening doors, letting the protesters come in peacefully.
Yeah.
The only person shot then was shot by a police officer who's been promoted, who probably should have been indicted, shooting that unarmed female veteran.
Yeah, I agree.
Arresting people, holding them without bail, a complete abrogation of democratic principle. They already tried to do it on January 6th. They tried to provoke it.
Yeah. And Jacob, I got a question. Jacob and David and whoever wants to answer too. It's Speaker Mike Johnson, on the last budget, fully funded the DOJ and the FBI. Even when Republicans said, don't do to that extent, don't do to the full extent that they wanted. They got a new building. They got more money than they ever got before. And he held the Republicans who didn't want to give it to the FBI because it was just going to expand their reach. And since they have the power of the purse, but Johnson has handed it to Schumer. I mean, am I wrong on this?
No, you're not wrong. That is why I'm so disappointed in him. He professes to be a born-again believer as well. Now, I realize he's got a 1-seat or 2-seat majority in the House. He's in a very precarious state. He's trying to stop Bowman. He's trying to stop Hakeem, whatever his name is. He's trying to stop Pelosi.
Yeah.
I realize he's in a precarious state politically, but he should have drew the line with that, and he didn't. He allowed democracy to be assaulted.
Yeah, the FISA 72, and then this guy did it.
That he passed the bill to allow the FBI to spy on us, thus overriding our Fourth Amendment rights, and allows them to do this over the phone with a judge. You know,
Can
they
you
don't
imagine-
even have to, you know, look, so this is they can, but he was smart enough to not let them spy on them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't do it. Yeah, Bruce Reinhardt, he's a judge, magistrate of the United States. He did it on WhatsApp. That was the warrant was signed. I didn't know they could do that. I mean, I was shocked. I didn't know they could do it over WhatsApp, which it's got. I guess it's owned by Zuckerberg, and he's got great encryption.
You used to actually have to present evidence to get a fight. You had to go before a judge and actually push down enough evidence that there's reasonable surety that this guy's involved in something bad. Now
That's right.
You just believe the cop. Instead of believing the woman, now it's believe the cop.
Man. Now, the aftermath of this, Jacob, is Trump went to the Bronx, and you're quite familiar with this. Over 30,000 people. I mean, that's a very low estimation. It might have been more, to the point where even CNN was shocked, admitting that this is not what the Democrats wanted.
More people went to see Donald Trump. Yeah. I used to work in the South Bronx at Hunts Point Market in the railroad. We used to spot refrigeration cars that were bringing vegetable produce from the Sun Belt up to New York. And I worked for the railroad, but it was in Hunts Point Market in the South Bronx. They made a movie with Paul Newman called Fort Apache. I remember what the South Bronx was like at that particular time. It made Boyle Heights seem like Bel Air.
Man.
I mean,
You're not familiar with LA Democrat.
if this place was bad, man. This place was bad. Completely Latino.
Isn't that where Yankee Stadium used to be?
Not far. The Yankee Stadium is over on the Harlem Riverside. Not far. You have to go further up in the Bronx to get reasonably decent neighborhoods, but the South Bronx was just absolutely, most of it was horrible. For him to get tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, a lot of those people, they must have been at least 3/4 of them had to be Hispanic in that area, because I know that area quite well.
Yeah.
And New York, and it's right next to the congressional district of AOC.
Yeah, she freaked out.
Part of her district constituency is in Queens. Part of it is in the Bronx. Right next to her home turf. He got that many people. It makes quite a statement. Of course, he is a New Yorker. Let's remember that. But
Correct. Yeah.
Schumer is not going to like it. Adams is not going to like it. AOC is not going to like it.
Jacob, do you think if there is an election, which we'll talk about that in a moment, because I think there's great provocation to not to have one, but there's even people talking about the fact that Trump can win New York. Is that even possible? I mean, it would
take a miracle of God. It would take something of a miracle of God. A Republican has not carried New York in quite some time. Like Nixon carried it simply.
Did Reagan carry it? I don't even remember.
Reagan carried it simply because Carter was so bad.
And then Mondale. He beat Mondale pretty handily.
48 to 2 states. He won 48 states.
Yeah, it's happened, but not since the 80s, certainly.
Man.
I'll tell you what might be in play. Somewhere, if it might happen in a place like New Hampshire or Minnesota. That would send a shock. But New York would be unbelievable.
Yeah, that would, New Jersey. I mean, they're even talking about New Jersey. He went to New Jersey. I watched the video on the beach. It was near the beach, and he got thousands.
In New Jersey, he got tens of thousands.
Yep.
Marco,
What scares me of all this is, like I used to be a poll worker, and you could go in the polls and look, I was shown how the Democrats work and how they get votes. And then I look at the Garvey runoff, where all of a sudden he's leading by thousands of votes, and then within minutes he's behind by thousands, and his votes went backwards. So it shows you they still have the ability. His votes went backwards. He had 108, now it went to 93,000. So it's just insanity that Dominion can reach in there, or whatever company is doing this. I don't know if it's Dominion, and whatever company, they do seem to be able to have the ability to change votes.
Yeah,
And
right.
Trump, I wrote him multiple times. We need Republican judges and Republican poll workers in every polling booth in America so they can keep an eye. And Trump better have teams of lawyers everywhere to be able to stop whatever they do.
Whatever's going to happen. Yeah.
Remember how they would put paper over the windows so nobody could see in? They cut the feeds from the film, the CTV camera.
TV camera, yeah.
It was also like what Krasner and Wolf did in Pennsylvania. It was the same.
Yeah.
But there's
Now
even
we know all-
questions about Georgia. There's even questions about Georgia, and you've got a rhino governor who will go along with it. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you
Go ahead,
know,
Jay.
they found 150,000 votes that they were just told the other day. The people that ran the polling and the election security, that they found all these votes that were
Yeah.
cast and they were changed. And what did they do? Tabled it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah,
So
we're not going to do anything. We're not going to add content.
Real quickly, I just wanted to kind of comment on all that's going on right now. What you're seeing is very similar to when the Roman Republic was dying. We see Marius and Sulla here. You know, when
Yes.
Marius came in office, he got rid of all the Sullites. When Sulla came in office, he got rid of all of the Marians. That's what you see with Joe Biden. He goes after Rudy Giuliani, Steve
Yep.
Bannon, Michael Flynn. These people are being prosecuted because they're political adversaries.
Absolutely.
They're part of the Trump
Threat.
management team. Now,
Yeah.
the question that I have is, if Trump wins, and does he do the same thing? It's almost he has to, because
Yeah.
obviously people like Garland, people like these prosecutions that are popping up everywhere against him, he needs to go after and remove these people, and there needs to be some kind of justice to them.
Yeah.
And
Retribution.
just to
There's no
remind
question
everyone,
Garland and Mayorkas need to be prosecuted.
absolutely, but it's not going to be just remove them. They have to actually
have them-
serve some kind of
Yeah.
sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't just let them go like Lynch and Holder and just kind of get a CNN
That's
show, something like that. Yeah.
But it's going to be really, really hard, because look, the first thing he should do when he's elected, say, whoever serves at the leisure of the president, have your resignation on my desk day one. And then I'll tell you if you're working on day two. But the problem is all those organizations, the State Department, the Justice Department, all those people are infected with
Yeah.
people that are liberal.
Yeah. Super
Top to
liberal.
bottom. And
Yeah.
so they're going to have, if hopefully if they can get the Senate and the House, they need to change the laws so that you can remove people that are civil service. You know,
A couple of things on the election. Yeah, a couple of things in the election I wanted to bring up. What do you guys think? Trump is going to speak at the Libertarian Convention, trying to get the independent vote. Libertarians are, no offense to anybody who's a libertarian, the party itself and some of the policies are just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But Jacob, what do you think? I haven't seen this. He didn't do it last time. Reaching
Okay.
out, speaking at the convention.
Back in the 80s, I used to vote Libertarian as a protest against Democrats and Republicans, but their social libertarian policies were not as extreme as they have become now, where literally anything goes.
They want
I-
heroin for kids. They want
Yeah,
heroin.
I couldn't vote Libertarian now. I disagreed with them on a small government and on fiscal conservatism and on a free market economy. I hated the Democrats and Republicans. I couldn't stand the establishment, so I voted for them as a protest, as I also voted for the Constitution Party as a protest against the parties. But they're not the same party as they were. However, the idea is to see Kennedy, to see the Greens, to see Cornel West, and to see Stein from the Greens, and to see the Libertarians hurt Biden more than they hurt Trump. That's what he's trying to do. that hurt them more than they hurt the Republicans. That is what they're trying to do. Now, I think with the really small Green parties, the Green Party, that's a given. But the Libertarian Party and Kennedy are in play. Who are they going to hurt more, Biden or Trump? Now, they'll hurt both, but the question is, which one will they hurt? Will they
more.
to the detriment of the Democrats or of the Republicans?
Yeah, some of the
right now,
libertarian
Kennedy is-
policies is, go ahead, David.
Right now, Kennedy is only on 6 states ballots right now. He's promised to be on all 50.
All of them,
but
yeah.
time is running out.
It is.
And so to get on all 50, so if he only gets on to a handful, it won't be a play because,
Yeah.
but he could hurt in certain states, depending,
Yes.
Yeah, some of the libertarian points that I think it's probably the one that Trump will go after is the very anti-legal immigration. That's one of the libertarian main points, and they want guns. That's another libertarian point.
Yeah, Second Amendment.
Yeah, so if they're, I guess
They
if they
want a
get
what?
Second Amendment, the guns,
Okay. Yeah.
guns,
there's-
yeah.
Hey,
So those are
go back to the 80s, the Libertarian Party
two big pillars.
was more predisposed to open immigration.
Interesting.
The way they looked at it, the great immigration of the early 20th century was one of the things that created an economic boom for the United States in the beginning of the 20th century. Similarly, during the Civil War, the Irish potato famine, and the huge immigration of people from Ireland into Boston, Philadelphia, New York. Again, it provided manpower for mining and for industry and soldiers for the Union Army, the Irish brigades and stuff like this, New York 69, the base. And so they looked at it and they said that the previous big booms of immigration that took place during the Civil War and that took place in the early 20th century, when Jews, Italians, all these people came, they thought at that time it would be something that would be beneficial, but they wanted it legal. They didn't want it illegal.
That's right. That's right. Jacob, the other one is Biden is not on the Ohio ballot, and there are a very good reason to think that he may not be there in November. According to state legislation, this is a law that's been around for a long time in Ohio. 90 days before
Yes.
the ballots are printed, you need to have your candidate. The Democratic Party, the DNC, is not going to have their convention until 75 days. So before the election. So the Ohio state legislature and the representatives are saying, you're not putting your candidate in. We can't have it in there. We cannot have it on the ballot. This is strange. It's a weird story. As things currently stand, there's no Biden on the ballot. Jacob, is this a plain oversight? They don't care. They think they're going to lose,
Is it?
or they're
The
going to use it as
Republicans-
political
The
interference.
Republicans, it's the Republicans in Ohio who want emergency legislation to make sure Biden gets on the on the ballot. One fear being, when he loses the election, they'll be able to say it was not fair because he was not on the ballot in a key,
Yeah, they're going to use it as an interference.
a key state. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it still won't hold up. It won't hold up. I don't think, because hopefully Biden will, Trump will win by such a electoral majority.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
he won Ohio.
You've got a good man in Ohio and Senator Vance.
Yeah.
The old establishment Republican thing of Kasich and Rhodes, that's long gone. There's a new Republican Party that's really conservative led in Ohio, and then Senator Vance was good for that state and good for the country. I think that they know that Ohio is gone like Florida. It has become a red state. Pretty much.
Yeah. It used to be that any president that won Florida and Ohio usually won,
That's
except one. Trump did not win even when he won Florida and Ohio. So it's interesting how that's going to go. But I did want to get to the main point. Jacob, the provocations, all the stuff that we talked about, most young people believe there's going to be a civil war. Most older people do not believe we're going to have a civil war. So let me give some breakdowns here. Rasmussen, there was a poll and a survey done. And here's what the baby boomers and the silent generation said. No, there will not be a civil war. Reason being, most of my friends and colleagues, people my age, we might disagree on some things, but it's not enough for a civil war. Younger people, Generation X, Generation Millennials, Z, their friends and colleagues are so far divided that they believe it will happen. They believe it will happen because it's such a huge divide. So the older generation is more cohesive. The younger generation is politically polarized. Jacob, how will we ever know if we're in a civil war unless you look at it from hindsight, right? So this is what happened in 1865. So let's run through some of those things that led to the Civil War, and people didn't even know it was starting.
Yeah, let's look at it in retrospect. Remember, the 13 original American colonies, we were British, Americans were British. 18 months before the Battle of Bunker Hill, which was the first significant battle of the American Revolution, 18 months before the American Revolution began with the Minutemen, okay? Before there was even a proper Continental Army, as such. When that happened, the majority of people in the 13 colonies did not want to rebel against Britain or against George III.
That's right.
Once it happened, over a period of 18 months, you had the Boston Tea Party, and you had the Boston Massacre, and you had the tearing down the statue of George III at Bowling Green in Manhattan, in New York, and you had Patrick Henry's speech in the church in Richmond, "Give me liberty or give me death." Like all of that kind of stuff happened in a relatively short time. Overnight, the revolution took shape. But even once it did, 1/3 of American colonists were Tory, were pro-British. They became the basic demographic of English-speaking Canada, not in Quebec, but in Ontario. These were people who left New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and they went to Canada. 1/3 of the population was Tory and fought with the British Army, many of them.
Yeah.
1/3 was neutral. 1/3 was neutral. Only 1/3 supported the Continental Congress and George Washington. Only 1/3. Well, the Civil War was the same. Not until Lincoln was elected, not until you had a pro-abolitionist president, did most people think there was a Civil War. Remember, 18 months earlier in Harper's Ferry, Virginia, with John Brown, most people thought he was a terrible man who should have been hung. Now, he gave his prediction, what was going to happen, that the sins of the nation have to be purged with blood and all this goes to the slavery and things. He was a crazy guy, he was a radical and all that. But most people agreed with hanging him. I mean, he didn't get much sympathy.
Right.
Okay? 18 months later, they changed the lyrics of "My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord." They will sing "John Brown's body lies a moaning in the grave."
Yep.
It only took 18 months for the country to flip entirely in both the American Revolution and in the American Civil War. The question is, can that happen again? Well, potentially it may.
Yeah, you're talking about bleeding Kansas. That took place in 1854, 10 years before we even had the Civil War. Things on John Brown, things were going on in Kansas.
Well, Lawrence, Kansas was the place, and out of that came this radicalism with Quantrill. You know, it was brewing for years, but most people never thought it would get to the point where what happened at Fort Sumter kicked it off. You know, then there was the first battle of Bull Run, but it was Fort Sumter that kicked it off. Until you had a pro-abolitionist president, most people didn't think it could happen.
In the Battle of Bull Run, people showed up to a picnic. It was a picnic over Virginia. I think it's right there.
They did the same thing in the Crimean War with the Charge of the Light Brigade. Wealthy people came down from Britain by ship, from England by ship, to have picnics and all that, and watch the charge. I thought it was going to be the same kind of thing, you know, same kind of, and then people were astounded with what happened.
Yeah.
So the Light Brigade was the slaughter, Road to 600, you know, Tennyson and all that stuff. Well, at Bull Run, people were astounded when McDowell was defeated by Stonewall Jackson.
Yeah, they
People
ran.
were astounded. They never thought it could happen.
Yeah.
And then they wake up to the new world. And notice it followed an election.
Yes, exactly.
It was precipitated by a controversial, tight election.
And even presidents were not put on the ballots.
Don't forget, Lincoln didn't win the first round.
Yeah. I know this is the weirdest part. And what was that? Ernest Hemingway thinks that how do you go bankrupt two ways? Slowly and then suddenly, right? It's like this idea that things began to, slowly happens. There's really not much
Yep. Yep.
noticeable change. And then all of a sudden you are in a different world. Jacob, that's my fear. My fear is that within America, but it's not just America, although this is what we're talking about, but Sweden's heading to a civil war, the migrant violence. Violence
And
against-
Ireland. And Ireland.
In Ireland?
Pressing it. The left-wing political machines and mainstream media and universities are trying to repress the reality.
Look what happened about a month ago. We were watching it here, just setting things on fire, and it was just an actual rebellion. And then they censor free speech because of it.
I've been to Malmo, Sweden twice. 2 or 3 times I've been to Malmo. It is a powder keg. It is a time bomb waiting to explode. But you know what? So are many communities in Black America and Hispanic America.
Yeah,
The
Chicago is a
immigrants
powder
taking their jobs are adding to the crime problem. They are draining social services away from our own urban poor. We're seeing a reaction.
Yeah.
You see, the Democrats, the left-wing establishment, needs to be able to take blacks and Hispanics for granted. It needs to be able to take the unions for granted. Once you have auto workers and people in manufacturing jobs in the Rust Belt going to Trump, once you have Black Americans realizing that they've been manipulated, lied to, and used, and Latinos say, wait, we came here legally. We came here, we had to get a card to bed, a green card, and we went through the whole process. And now these guys are coming here and bringing the fentanyl and bringing the crime to our neighborhoods after we try to build a new life in this country.
And
they're losing
paying them
these
Social Security.
Yeah, they're losing these people. They're losing their base. And when they lose, when they lose their base, they get desperate. They're losing blue collar workers in the Rust Belt. They can't rely on the unions, or at least not the members of the unions. Maybe they can rely on the leadership. But the union leadership will sell their members down the river in a minute. Okay, but they're losing Rust Belt blue collar manufacturing jobs and people working in, and they're losing now minorities. And they're losing blacks, but they're hemorrhaging Latinos.
Yeah. Jacob, do you think the same thing in the UK and France? You got an uprising of Brits who are saying, this is enough. This is enough. We can't have another prime minister doing this to us. You see cities like London, like Bradford, that are absolutely invaded, and they are absolutely outraged over this, but nothing seems to be happening. Do you think it'll soon have a reaction within
They've
the
taken over London. Khan was reelected. Okay, they got rid of the Muslim as First Minister of Scotland. There is something of a reaction in Britain, something. But the real reaction is in Ireland and with Le Pen in France. It is with, and it is also with Geert Wilders in Holland, and it is in Denmark and Sweden. And that's where it is.
So it seems like the
Oh,
world
and Italy, and to a degree in Italy.
to a degree in Italy. Yeah, I was Portugal. Okay, so here in London, here it is: London, Birmingham, Leeds, Blackburn, Sheffield, Oxford, Luton, Oldham, Rochdale, and Brent. City councillors and various Muslim leaders in those cities. Sharia for Britain. It's a thing that the Muslims parade around. Would there be a reaction, Jacob?
There will be, but I would expect there to be a reaction in Scandinavia and in Ireland and in France before Britain. What also is interesting, don't forget, the Islamic issue is only one issue with the left. This past week in Deutschland, in Germany, the German National Assembly decriminalized pedophilia.
Can you believe that?
There's an activist organization called Pedophile Rights. That's what they call themselves. They've reduced it to a misdemeanor. In other words, it's no longer a felony. It's functionally decriminalized pedophilia.
Yeah, and this
And if there's photography of children, then there's a victim. That's a child.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've
And I think
forgotten it.
this is the great divide. And then it was interesting by the survey. of older people thinking it won't happen, but younger people are absolutely sure it will happen. And that kind of leads me into thinking, of the psychology of Americans, where older people got along, at least politically, didn't make a big deal about it, and they were able to at least, they disagree on certain things, but they weren't into the homosexuality, the pedophilia, the transsexuality. As you get into the younger generation, now there's a huge divide, which I don't think it will be able to be overcome. Go ahead, David.
In the continental United States, you've got basically 4 areas. The Democrats are too weak in New Mexico. Again, you have the largest demographic in New Mexico are Hispanics, and a lot of them are moving to a right center or even a conservative position. But they've got Colorado. Okay, they've got Colorado in the middle of the West. There are conservatives in rural Colorado, but they've got Denver, Boulder, that stuff. Okay, they've got Colorado. They've got the entire West Coast, and they've got the Northeast from Virginia, Washington, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, and New England, most of New England. Okay, they've got 3 areas, and then of course Illinois in the middle of the country, in the Midwest. It's not like the Civil War where it was the South and the North, where there was a race and divided.
Yeah, it's not geographical.
It's sections.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, because it is much more to do than geography, Jacob. But the same thing I can make about World War III. When you look back in hindsight at World War II or World War I, all these events that led up to it. Now in hindsight, we can say, of course, it was going to happen. We could see it. It's Civil War, same thing. But none of those people that were living at that time ever said, "Oh, we're in World War II, we're in World War I." Until it happened, until it was too late to make changes. When I hear Putin and his cabinet 17 times warning and tactical nukes to Britain, nukes to Europe, and then you have NATO with Macron, Cameron, Blinken threatening to go after Putin, to go after Russia, and you see Putin alliance with Xi. At what point are we going to say, you know what, we are in the midst of something so troubling, I don't think people are going to even notice until it's too late.
This radiates with the specter of what happened in World War I, with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand by Giacomo Princip in Sarajevo, Bosnia. Nobody imagined that Russia and France would get dragged into that war, that would drag in Britain, that would drag in the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Germany aligned against Britain and France, and then America get dragged into it.
Yeah,
nobody imagined that a local conflict in the Balkans could result in something like this. Well, who would imagine a local, what is to the American mind at least, or the Australian mind, or Canadian mind, a local conflict in Central and Eastern Europe that could drag the rest of the world in. Again, we have to look at the historical precedents for these things happening.
No, absolutely.
The only thing that worries me about this, Marco, what worries me, Marco, is all this uprising and everything and uncertainty in the nations. It's how easy it would be to just declare a martial law, just to lock it at 3 o'clock in the morning. They just turn off the communications, turn off the electricity, and just lie to us that, oh, hey, we've been hacked by some foreign power, and now with no communications, with no ability to shut down the banks with your cards, there would be lack of movement, lack of the ability to communicate unless you just have you're like a Minuteman that has radios and some communications, but still, it would just be kind of local levels, and it would be very easy for them to declare martial law and stop everything,
It would be.
If you want your bank account back, you got to get your card.
Got to get your CBDC. I did want to talk about the Xi alliance with Putin, because immediately after that meeting, Jacob, you had Chinese drills surrounding Taiwanese ships, Chinese Air Force but especially the ships going around Taiwan, basically blocking Taiwan. Although they said it was only a drill, it was very clear from Xi that it was a response to the new president of Taiwan. The new
Why?
president,
President lie.
yeah,
He
Lai
basically-
Ching-te.
He basically says that Taiwan is an independent country.
Yep.
Basically, he's saying that it's the island of Formosa is Taiwan, and it's not China, and it's never going to be part of a communist state. It's not the same. Don't forget, going back to Chiang Kai-shek and Mao, Chiang Kai-shek claimed that his government on Taiwan was the legitimate government of China.
That's right. That's right.
And the Communist Chinese Party said that Taiwan is a offshore territory of China. Now he's talking about a functional independence.
Yeah.
You've got a situation in Singapore and Indonesia to a degree, certainly in Malaysia to a degree, but in Singapore, Indonesia, and Taiwan, diasporic Chinese don't like China. Hong Kong Chinese don't like China.
That's right.
How Chinese, most of them don't like China. They like the Chinese businessmen who come to gamble in the casinos, but they don't like China. You've got a big schism. Now, that is interesting because you have a similar schism between Israelis and left-wing American Jews. It's the same kind of thing. Same ethnic people, same heritage, but ideologically disparate and has political ramifications. But let's also remember the saber rattling taking place by China and Japan. That is in significant part accountable or attributable to wagging their dog. They are in trouble economically. Their plans are not getting any better. Now they are telling bankrupt local governments, local, regional, provincial governments, to buy these houses that nobody else wants to buy. But these governments are broke themselves.
Yeah.
Their plans to resuscitate their economy with central bank policies and with try to dump the overproduction of manufactured goods on the international market, and of course their own quantitative easing. None of these things are working. None of these things are working. China is obviously reached the point that Japan did in the 80s, compounded like Japan by a demographic decline. China's going to lose 600 million people within a generation. They know it's not going to be what it was, and it's already having an impact. They're not reaching that 5%, that magic 5%. Now, most countries would love a 5%. For China, that is comparatively low to what they've had in the last 20 to 30 years. They're very nervous about it, so they're wagging the dog. They've got to play that card the way Mao did on the Arma River at the end of the Cultural Revolution. In order to artificially engender a national sense of cohesion and patriotism and unity, they have to have a foreign enemy. That is an old Chinese game. That is you understand China, you have to understand Mao and you have to understand Sun Tzu. Yeah. Everything they do is, if you understand Mao, the Red Book, and you understand Sun Tzu, you can know what they're going to do before they do it.
Yeah. Jacob, are you saying that you don't think that this is a real threat to Taiwan, that they won't
do? I think it is, but I think the reason for doing it is not primarily or only about Taiwan. I think it is about their economic...
Yeah, of course. Expansionism and their economic trouble that they have. No, absolutely.
Trying to bring about an artificial sense of national cohesion in the face of economic implosion, yes.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Marco, on this, it's... those that know China and everything said the way they lettered this punishment on Taiwan, they put an A. So people are expecting punishment B, C, E, just to be an ongoing punishment to try to hurt the economy of Taiwan, try to bring them into the fold.
Yeah, no. I did want to finish up on the wars and rumors of war part with Israel. You have Democratic lawmakers here, Jacob, like Bernie Sanders, who is a Jew, who says he by no means will attend Netanyahu's divisive, quote unquote, speech at Congress when he's been asked to address Congress in a joint session by Mike Johnson. Jacob, your thoughts on boy, Europe seems to be anti-Israel. America seems to be turning anti-Israel. Not everybody, not all the government, but certainly the Democratic Party has to make a decision. But you got these Jews, left-wing Jews, who are self-hating, and of course now they don't want Netanyahu to be around. And but you know, we have footage of them being attacked again. Hezbollah hit Kiryat Shmona, they hit Shatula. So your take on this? I mean, just real quick, Bernie Sanders, Schumer says
You have a fragmentation of American Jews into 4 factions. The first factions are the political cowards. Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Notice they're all maintaining a low profile and not saying anything, or not saying much unless they really have to. So you have the cowards, okay? Then you have those who will betray the national interests of both America and Israel, the extreme left represented by Bernie Sanders, okay, and people of that ilk, extreme left-wing Jews. Then you have the anti-Zionist religious parties, the Setmar Hasidim, but they are small, but they're anti-Zionist, okay? They are small, okay? You've got those 3 factions. But then you've got the other Jews. That ranges from liberal Reform Jews, moderately liberal, people like Alan Dershowitz, generally educated, middle to upper middle class, some affluent, and some religious. Those people are now caught in a dilemma. They realize they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yep.
How can they remain Democrat? Alan Dershowitz, you see, there's a crisis written all over his face. How can he remain what he always was when Temple Emmanuel bans him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How can he remain what he always was, knowing what the realities of what's happening both legally and geopolitically? Well, he is the face of a lot of educated American Jews who are traditional Democrats and realize they cannot stay what they were. And some of them are going to have to gravitate towards the Republican Party or whatever. But they're still different than Israelis who understand that Trump moved the embassy. That was the thing, that when the embassy was moved, except for Joe Lieberman, who had retired from the Senate,
Yes.
where was Wasserman Schultz? Where was Schumer? Where was Blumenthal? Where was Steve Cohen? Where was Schiff? Where was Nadler? Where were any of these cowardly hypocrites? They weren't there. They were not there for the ceremony of moving the embassy. This is what you've got. 4 factions.
You know, I was watching that video from the UNRWA schools in Gaza, and the kids just completely hatred of Jews. I remember 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, there was videos coming out of Pakistan, how they were indoctrinating children to kill Indians, and they got awards for saying the most heinous things about killing Indians. I'm gonna kill this Indian. I'm gonna, be an Air Force pilot and shoot down all the Indians, and they got awards for it. And now you have UNRWA schools provided by the UN, who are literally, I mean, we watched it. My heart broke. These kids, 6, 7 years old, hatred for the Jews, killing them, stabbing them. Unreal.
Provided by the UN, United Nations Relief and Works Agency, which should be abolished and which Donald Trump stopped funding. Yes,
right.
They are operated by the UN, these schools, but they are funded by the American taxpayer, thanks to Joe Obama. We are paying for it. We are paying for children to be indoctrinated in hatred and terror.
Yeah, only the Lord Jesus can remove that hate, man. Seriously, because this hate is engendered by
Blinken, a Jew, Secretary of State, writing the checks for it.
Yeah. Well, we hit more than an hour already, and just want to make sure everybody is aware this is Catching Up with Jacob, and we'll be heading toward questions on Backstage in a few minutes. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching it live. And those who will watch later, Jacob's in Australia, David's in Singapore. Well, Davey too is in Australia. Jay and I here in Southern California enjoying lack of sun today because it's an overcast day. And we'll be going over to Backstage, except on YouTube and Facebook. Jacob, last point. bird flu hysteria takes flight right as you hit Victoria. You're going to hit Victoria pretty soon. Seems like you're going to the epicenter of that. In America, it's Colorado, it's Michigan. 9 different states have reported it, but definitely Colorado, Michigan, with the dairy farmers. In Australia, you have chicken farms, and Meredith and Victoria, and is it Tarragon?
Terang.
Terang. Thank you. How far is that from your place, Davey?
About an hour.
Oh, that's not far.
20
Yeah,
minutes.
that's not far at all. So, Jacob, you're coming into what many people have said it's the epicenter of the bird flu. Now, we can talk a lot about that, but I just wanted to condense it into, what are we facing? Is it seem just in time for another election? Is it a big power grab? Is it a big moneymaker for Moderna and AstraZeneca, which are already ramping up production for this? And the WHO, and the words of the former CDC, Robert Redfield, that he predicted it was going to be some kind of bird flu back in 2022. Take it to you, over to you, Jacob.
Over that and more, I will say this and then throw it open. With the COVID pandemic, something that should have been a scientific issue and a public health issue became a political issue. We were lied to. We were lied to by Fauci. We were lied to by a politicized CDC, by a World Health Organization, by a useless National Institute of Health. We were lied to by our own government. We were lied to by the mainstream media. Some of the best scientific minds in the world, experts in messenger RNA, were sequestered, including a Nobel laureate from the from the Pasteur Institute in Paris, including Dr. Robert Malone, including Dr. Mike Jensen from Pfizer. They were sequestered. Liars were given the platform. Whoopi Goldberg was allowed to promote the virus, but the top biogenetic engineering experts in the world were sequestered if they didn't support the vax. That was a dry run. That was a rehearsal. That was a dress rehearsal for something worse. We've only seen the cartoon before the movie. We know it's not going to be a scientific or public health issue. It'll just be marketed and staged that way. No matter what scientific and merit the situation carries in terms of microbiology and genetic medicine, it's not going to be about that. It's going to be about its political and economic application to the interests of globalism. For this, I thank everyone from the Schwab slobs to Bill Gates, but that's where it's going.
All right, David Lister. That was good.
Well, first thing that bothers me about all this is they're actually using these same stupid plastic PCV test things, which the makers of them said it can't really detect that virus, that it's just deposited. There might be something there. And so,
David,
now
just
they're
really
going
quick cut.
around-
David, real
Go
quick on that point. I'll come back to you. Just what you said is absolutely what Bloomberg said. We're not testing enough. A call to ramp up testing, PCR tests in Australia. So go back to you. You say exactly what you said.
So they're using this same test on animals. They can't really tell if that particular disease that they're wanting to expose is they're testing on animals with this. So it doesn't really show what's there. It just shows that there's something there.
Something.
And so and so now not only that, but now we're finding out that a lot of these, everybody laughed when I said I went and got my gun test swabs, my cleaning kits to put those things up. Now we see that these things have ethylene oxide, which is a cancer that you're jamming up into your nose. It's made in China with ethylene oxide, which is a cancer. So don't put those up your nose, and also there's just so how will we really know if there's a problem? This is the thing. It's just all lies. It's all
just to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
There are there's scientific opinion who says that ethylene oxide is a carcinogen. We are not saying we're not qualified to, but there is scientific opinion warning that it is a carcinogen. And the fact that these kits are manufactured in China makes it more suspect in itself.
Yes, I just said, people were laughing at me because I didn't trust them anyway.
Okay.
So because that's why I went and got my American made Q-tips. So it's anyway, but people should just be question authority, but people have to make their own health decisions, pray and take it to the Lord is what we're required to do.
That's
But
right.
how will we, now what do we still continue to see Schwab's plan of killing food, of they're burning beehives over here
Oh yeah, no more
in honey
bees.
production in New Zealand and in Australia. So no bees, no pollinations. And we used to send, from what I understood when I talked to this one man here, that Australia and New Zealand send bees to Canada. They ship them across and then they pollinate during different times. So it can hurt all over the world so
It's not only
you
that,
have-
but in terms of natural remedies, Manuka honey is very important.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
Amazing.
As a non-pharmaceutical healing agent, topical healing agent. And
Incredible.
it tastes really good, but it's but
does.
it's still expensive to put on your toast in the morning, but it's good to have some of the medicine cabinet. What is going to happen when they euthanize the bee population in New Zealand where it comes from?
Yeah.
So there's still there now. This is another angle of getting rid of food. Now we're seeing they're destroying cows. They're wanting to inject mNRA into cows. They're just doing. Gates wants to spray it on vegetables. So there's a full-on assault against the human race and depopulation by the World Economic Forum. They're doing it every which way as fast as they can. They want to be on track for their 2030,
Katie, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Well, I totally agree with you there too, David. It is the destruction of the food supply. And look, one of the immediate things we're really going to see here in Australia, in Victoria in particular, is look, they've already exterminated 500,000 chickens in Victoria.
Oh my.
Now, Jacob was commenting the other day on how bad the inflation here is in Australia. And particularly, look, Daniel Andrews broke Victoria. Victoria is probably about the worst state in the country for food prices and everything like that. Your average family, your average person cannot afford to buy beef or lamb. Now, it's kind of become a luxury item. So most people are turning to chicken. Well, yeah, chicken is the more affordable meat for most people. Now, the meat prices for chicken are going to, and chicken and eggs are all going to go through the roof. That's going to be one of the first things the average person's going to notice. This is all happening at the same time. They've got the WHO pandemic treaty coming up on in a couple of days' time. I've lost my thought. I was going to say something else about like the inflationary aspect. We know Bill Gates has got his artificial egg thing. He set up shop here in Australia.
Yeah,
it's going to become very difficult for people here. But the Biosecurity Act, the Biosecurity Act was amended here 2 years ago in 2022 during the last pandemic. So basically now in Victoria, what do you call it? Their officials can come onto your property, any property. They don't need to show ID, and they can seize anything, any agricultural thing they want off your property, whether it be a plant, whether it be livestock, anything they deem as being a biosecurity risk. They don't need to show ID. They don't need to give advance warning. They can just come onto your property. So if you've got home chickens, they could be a threat. They can come on. They can seize them. We all know where this is heading. They're really prepping us up for another lockdown.
just in case, they've also been pumping up new coronavirus strains. I forget what they called this one. It had a crazy name. They're pumping up the rhetoric again. We know what's ahead. It's not going to be good. People aren't going to be able to afford chicken now, so they're going to have to go to these alternatives. And who are we going to get? Bill Gates come on the scene with his cancer-causing lab-grown meats and fake milk, because you won't be able to drink the milk because, it could be infected.
You're going to cold the cows. Yeah.
So the very thing that Davey's describing in Australia with the seizure of agricultural produce and also of farming equipment apparatus without any particular warrant or the court order to be able to do it. That took place in Pennsylvania against the Amish.
Yeah, remember that? They raided.
With the pasteurized milk and so on. The Amish were practicing organic farming before anybody else even thought of it. They always did. That was just, it was their culture, and there was even a religious aspect to it with them. You know what I mean? They always did it. But, and the state government, the State Department of Health and Agriculture began targeting the Amish.
Yep.
And that's about the healthiest natural food you're going to get in the face of the earth, is what
That's
they
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Are
But
you
they
saying that
started- the Amish
GMO is not
started-
good?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The Amish have started registering to vote. It's not been a big thing with them. And so they started registering to vote. And when I happened to be talking to one of the owners of the co-op that I would go to once in a while to buy some organic things and such, for things for cheaper price. And I was talking to him about what's coming, and pretty soon I turned around and I saw 4 or 5 Amish guys all standing around and listening. And so they're starting to hear things. They're starting to be worried, because I said, look, your livings are a threat. They want to depopulate, farmers. It's ecocide. You guys are killing the environment.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jake.
I was just saying, in newsflash, GMO is good for you, and if it's made meat in a petri dish that's injected with, don't they grow it from a cancer cell?
Yeah, it's a
The
cancer.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the
So-
fastest cancer cell ever. It came from a lady in the 70s. And it's just, it's super fast. It is incredible growth, and they still use it.
Yeah, that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's just eat it.
Nothing to see here. Keep moving along.
Moving. Yeah.
I would gotta say the virus that was found in the pathogenic strain of avian influenza in Australia is the H7N3, which they were surprised. It was very different than the H5N1, which is the normally bird flu. So it somehow has a different strain in Australia. And based on Robert Redfield's former CDC director, talking about the 5 amino acids that they have to change in order to make it more aggressive against humans, this is a part of what he was warning about back in 2022, and now he's coming out again saying, like Jacob said, this is the one we need to worry about. And so bird flu. David, Jacob, you guys are going to be right in the epicenter of it. It'll be good to get some more info on it next time. What you hear on the ground floor, because Jacob, when you begin to talk about this in Melbourne, I think people are going to be very interested in finding out what's going on, because by all accounts, Victoria seems to be the epicenter of this, and all over the world they are concerned, and even the HHS here is producing. I think I had it here 4.8 million bird flu vaccines going forward with the production of the H5N1. So they're not targeting the other H7N3. So this is from the Center of Disease in Minnesota research policy. So what a time. What timing, impeccable timing. Election, we're in the midst of a possible civil war. There's wars and rumors of war. Jacob, in a lot of ways, this mirrors Matthew 24, even though we're not in that time period yet.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
You see, remember when Ford was president, they wanted to manufacture a vaccine, and they needed eggs to do it. Remember?
Yeah, that's how it started. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had that crazy, I saw her once, she was a horrible person. Edwina Curry was the British health minister. She had no qualification or background to be that, but she said eggs were then dangerous. So that caused her to have to get fired, fortunately. But she was off the wall anyway. Terrible person. But that was in Britain. But then you had the situation where there was another bird flu fever that originally supposedly came from Vietnam. Now, I had been in Vietnam at the time smuggling Bibles. This is back in the 90s. I shouldn't say that on the... Anyway,
Delete that from the record.
yeah. People were herding. They have herds of ducks, like you have a guy with a herd of sheep in the Middle East or something, or New Zealand. They have herds of ducks. I don't know how. They're non-aviary. They don't fly. They just have these ducks that they have in the marshes and swamps and stuff like that. The rice paddies, rather. And there's herds of them. And the Vietnamese didn't care. They didn't care about bird flu. It was just life just went on, you know. But everywhere else in the world, it was a big deal. Well, China was the same. They didn't care about the Wuhan. And that's the problem. Everybody else in this, it follows the same pattern. Only it gets worse each time.
Each time, that's right. Jacob, what about? Go ahead, David.
Did I add one thing?
Yeah.
New Zealand, when I was over there, said that they're going to stop live shipment of sheep in 2020.
Wow.
That is going to decimate because they have these container ships made that carry 100,000 plus sheep all at once that go over to various places in the Arab world. So what a devastation. Huh?
That's what I was going to ask you. Even to the Islamic countries.
Yeah.
They were building the abattoirs in New Zealand facing Mecca to capture the Islamic market.
Yep.
Wow. That halal meat.
Yeah.
And also they not only were the sheep being sent to Arab countries but they were being processed, but also they were selling the meat here in America. Costco got into big trouble because they started importing a lot of lamb that was halal, and people noticed it and made a big stink, and so they quit selling halal meat, buying lamb from New Zealand via the Arab world.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, David, I wanted to ask you, has Malcolm Roberts or any of the good MPs said anything about this? Because it's getting a lot of attention right now because of the concern over the bird flu. I'm just wondering and I don't know who your MP is in terms of Victoria and how that works, but if you could let us know, what have you heard?
Okay, as far as Malcolm Roberts goes, I haven't heard him actually speak out about the bird flu as yet, but then we've been probably a little bit more preoccupied this week, so I haven't been following it. But Malcolm Roberts is very much speaking out against the WHO pandemic treaty, which is coming up next week. So we've been very vocal about that. We have a handful. I think Alex Antic may have spoken up here in New South about the bird flu. I think I started watching a video yesterday of him talking about it, but I don't know if I got all the way through it. I can't remember what he said.
The UK's been fighting against this a bit too, haven't they, Jacob? Against the, I hope some countries will say no.
Yeah. I know they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it, and I'm glad for that. The UK doesn't want to sign the treaty. Jacob, before we finish, any thoughts on Klaus Schwab?
That's one of the benefits of Brexit that they don't want to talk about.
The what?
Well, Brexit, they would have been compressed by Brussels to do it. You know what I mean? Now they have more flexibility to determine their own agricultural policies.
Jacob, any thoughts on Klaus Schwab stepping down? Just final thoughts before we go.
I'll be glad to see him go, but I'm not so convinced that if he's replaced by Volga Brenda from Norway, he's going to be any better.
No, I know.
Usually what happens, you lose one bad one, you get one that's twice the son of the devil.
Yeah.
You see
people like Hariri and people like that.
Yeah.
No, Hariri, who's a horrible person.
You think Hariri will take over that, Jacob? I mean,
I think he's going to remain in a key advisory position as an academic to whoever succeeds Schwab.
Mm.
Because the whole bit,
always wondered why Solomon, when he went through the courts and saw his courts that he made, that he saw the corruption of the judges and everything, but he never did replace them. I'm
Yeah,
wondering
never
if he
did.
knew that he had one bad guy, he'd get one that would be twice as under the devil.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
but Jacob, what did you call them? The Jeroboam and Rehoboam syndrome?
yeah, Jeroboam and Rehoboam. The Abs of Solomon, Jeroboam and Rehoboam. Which bum do you want?
Yeah, then you get one bum over another. But it is interesting. Some people say, well, see, this populism is replacing globalism, and they see Schwab as a big part of that. I'm maybe a little bit more, maybe perhaps unjaded, but I don't see it as something that it's going to be of good. I think it's going to
Look,
be,
the world is the power of the wicked one.
that's right.
Unless you have somebody unless you have a lot of saved Christians who are praying and a strong biblical influence in the government, it's not going to make a difference no matter who gets elected. I just think think of Ronald Reagan and the moral majority. Look what happened. He appoints Sandra Day O'Connor, a pro-abortion judge who outlaws the Texas sodomy laws and opens the door for same-sex marriage and orders the 10 Commandments out of the Judiciary Building in Alabama. This was Reagan. I mean, people look to some kind of a human savior instead of to
Yeah.
the Lord. Now,
That's
we
right.
need to pray for whoever gets elected, and we need to vote with common sense and as the Lord leads us and so forth. But Christians can be so naive looking for a political solution when there isn't going to be one no matter who gets elected. It is, I don't see any political savior. I see Jesus as the savior. And I think that
Amen.
these people who are doing this stuff, I think that they have people like Jack Hibbs who speak in Jack Hibbs' church. I think they have good intentions. And I even tend to agree with them politically, but I don't think it's going to make the difference that they think it's going to make. They all went they thought it was a big victory. David Lister talked to them, a big victory with the Proposition 8. One Republican homosexual judge nominated to the bench by Ronald Reagan, appointed by Bush, reversed the Democratic will expressed electorally by the people of California. Yet all these churches, they were all celebrating, we won the victory. You won nothing. You know, nations are going to get the leaders they deserve. That's always going to be the way. Unless there is a revival, which there's none on the horizon at the present time, unless there's a repentance and a returning to Christ, it's not going to make much difference one way or another. The most you're going to get is an interim period of respite, like you had with Brexit or with Donald Trump's first administration. That's the most you're going to get is respite, but it's not going to change the basic trend. There's not enough salt and light left in the church to affect the system.
There's a lot of Christian nationalism that is rising from the reform camps, and they actually want to kind of create sort of a Cromwell state. But the question has to be, is there enough time for somebody to rise and to convert all these people to follow the laws that they want to institute, taking away women's right to vote, doing this, doing that?
Yeah. First of all,
but unless people repent and accept the Lord and sigh and moan over the abominations that are going on in our nation, and unless they bend their will to Him, there's no revival coming.
Absolutely. But as you know, David, whenever you have that kind of reformed Calvinistic theonomic reconstructionism, anywhere from Zwingli in Zurich to Calvinist Geneva to Cromwell's England to Salem, Massachusetts, it's always been a disaster. It has never ever worked. Just look at the
war, doesn't it?
The Dutch Reformed Church of South Africa under the apartheid. It has never, ever, ever worked. That's the first problem. The second problem is there is a left-wing Calvinism, the Tim Keller type stuff. So it is not just a right-wing or Reconstructionist conservative Calvinism with a politically conservative agenda. You've got Calvinists with politically active with a left-wing agenda that came from the influence of Tim Keller and his crew, and it's still around.
Very woke, radical ideologies, critical race theory, textual criticism, not even the textual criticism, higher criticism And of course, you see the Southern Baptists with like Russell Moore and people like that who are definitely damaging the church. All right. Well, we've done all the topics. We're going to be going over to backstage for the question.
Can I say one more thing, Mark, very briefly?
Go ahead, real quick.
We have elections coming in Great Britain. Elections have been called for the 4th of July. It's probably significant that they called it for that day in particular. The Conservative Party of England is a failure. What's his name? Donald Trump's former advisor, Bannon, Steve
Bannon,
yeah.
Bannon.
He has given a very candid and accurate assessment of what has become of the British Tory Party, the British Conservative Party, and they're down in all the polls. Nigel Farage is saying that the outcome of the American election is more important than the British election, even though he's British. Britain is in quite a political quagmire. With the growth of the left, with the growth of Islam, Britain is in a political, it is at a point politically that will determine the nature of post-Brexit Britain. There's also stupid people who are attributing Britain's economic problems to Brexit, not realizing Germany, the paymaster of Europe itself, has been in recession for over 3 years, that France is in major trouble, that Italy is in significant trouble, that Greece is in significant trouble. As if Britain's having stayed in Europe would have made a difference. Britain would be in trouble if it stayed in Europe. It maybe even in worse trouble. But this is what's being propagated by the mainstream media. We shouldn't have left Europe, or this wouldn't happen. If they stayed in Europe, they'd be sinking with Germany. Britain's economy is at least a half step above Germany's, although it's not much better off. The number of people in Britain living below the poverty line now is huge. Right, like 20 to 25% of the people are below the poverty line.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the same as the American poverty line because they have socialized medicine and other things like that. It assuages it somewhat, but it is a big, big mess. And the media is lying through its teeth.
So you have the American election, the UK election, which is they just called for it, Sunak, July 4th, and you have the Indian election in June. So
right now, the war is artificially uniting Israel, but there's going to have to be a day of reckoning over what happened October 7th. Just like Meir was held accountable, that thing is going to be held accountable.
Yeah. So there are rumors, Jacob, that Sunak does not want to be a wartime prime minister, and that's one of the reasons that they're looking for a prime minister that's going to be more of a wartime one. So I'll leave it up to the speculations.
My ideal world, another Asian, Suella Braverman, would be the prime minister, but I don't know if that's going to. Right now, it doesn't seem likely.
Yeah. So these are things. These are the things that Christians all over the world deal with it. So we're going to backstage. We got a lot of questions, Jacob. Very excited about the questions. So if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, jump over to Rumble and Memorial TV, memorialtv.org, Vimeo, Telegram, and the other websites. We're not going to be on YouTube or Facebook. So these are good questions, and sometimes our tech overlords don't like us to ask these questions. So we'll be jumping on the other side. So thank you for watching, catching up. We'll be going to backstage in just a few minutes.
Hello, and thank you for watching Memorial TV. There are so many things that are happening at Memorial Ministries worldwide, from the Philippines to Japan, to India to Africa, and back to Europe and the United States. So many of our brothers and sisters are spreading the good news of Jesus Christ to this lost world. We are so thankful for your prayers. God has been faithful and has blessed us in so many ways. If you'd like to partner with our efforts abroad and at home, please take a moment to click the link in the description and help us as the Lord leads you. Thank you very much, and God bless.